Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another edition of Behind the Small Business Podcast. My name is Kevin Dandino. Of course, this is all brought to you by Centennial State Insurance Agency. Today, I've got none other than himself, Dustin from Elevation Concrete. Dustin, how you doing today, good sir?
Doing great today, man. How are you doing?
Cannot complain. It's Friday. It's Valentine's Day, so hopefully everybody out there, you got your Valentine's Day gifts and shopping. If you did lean last minute shopping, there you go.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on, Kevin.
Yeah, no, this is going to be great. And, I was thinking before, we recorded this and trying to think of some questions that I want to ask you, how I wanted to approach this. And it kind of occurred to me that concrete is everywhere. It's sidewalks, driveways, wherever you look, you can find some concrete pretty easily, but we don't really think about the people behind it. We don't think about what goes into operating and owning a concrete company. And so I'm just really looking forward to you hearing your thoughts on all of that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's kind of overwhelming when you start to realize how much concrete is everywhere. It's foundations of our homes. It's the roads we drive on. It's the walkways we walk on, where we're sitting in restaurants. There's concrete. I mean, it really is. It's everywhere. And, it's neat. There's a lot that goes into it. It's fun, and it's always cool when people take a little interest in, I guess the non-sexy trades, if you will. So,
sure.
Yeah.
No, totally understand you there, man. Well, let's just start off this way, hand it over to you, kind of let us hear your story, how you got into the concrete business, what made you want to open a concrete business, and just share your story, man.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I appreciate that. Well, I started off like a lot of young kids. I was in college. I wasn't 100% sure what I wanted to do. I fire science, and I was a chef and studied culinary, and I was a restaurant manager and kind of a hodgepodge. But in that time, it taught me a lot about working with people and communicating with people and, just kind of reading folks, which was really beneficial. I didn't realize how much I would utilize it within the trade and the industry at this point. But along that time, working in restaurants as a chef and a restaurant manager, they don't make a ton of money. So I did a lot of side work. And in the summers, I do landscaping work because my dad, when he was around, he used to do excavation. He had a pond, waterfall building business that we help him, my brother and I. We just finally decided to go in to business together, my brother and I, and we kicked up a little kind of a handyman business. And we did stuff. A lot of real estate agents would utilize our services, a small room that needed to be painted, just little things. But we got a lot of questions about concrete steps needing repair, a new patio, or just, it was constantly. So we had a gentleman who had done some work with my family prior. He worked, around my dad and done work for us and my aunt and my mom. And at that point, his name's Caesar. He's now my business partner. And I reached out to him and had him look at a project. And he said, if you sell a project for me, I'll just give you a percentage of it. And I said, okay, well, that's cool. Well, in that first 6 months, I sold just over $500,000 in concrete for him. And at that point, he kind of hit him. He said, I'm not really doing any work for anybody else. I'm mainly just doing the work that you're selling. So that was back in 2014. And in 2015, we gave it kind of another test run to see how going into the season was. And it worked out. So we decided to form Elevation Concrete in 2015. So we hit 10 years this year, and slowly built up our partnership after a couple of years. And now we're 50-50, and we're, I guess, as they say, we're in it. Yeah. In it to win it kind of thing. So yeah, kind of a unique story. Yeah.
No, that's a really cool kind of just hearing how it formed over time like that, compared to maybe somebody who's like, okay, I know I'm going to open a restaurant, or I know I'm going to go into this line I'm going to open this business, right?
100%.
Kind of more of an evolution over time, it sounds like.
It really was. And, back to kind of what you were saying, how we don't realize the amount of concrete and everything that's around you. I mean, when I went into the industry, it really was kind of an eye-opening time for me where I was like, holy cow, it really is just, it's everywhere. And then as you start to learn the science behind it and different applications and different types, and then you start to figure out soils like we have here in Colorado. I mean, it's a multi-billion dollar industry nationwide. I mean, it's pretty amazing. So sure. It's been a learning curve, but I've always been entrepreneurial, and I don't halfway do things. I dive right in. So if I knew when I was doing this, if I was going to start a concrete business, I was going to be the best concrete business and know the most about concrete. So it's been a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
Learning everything. Yeah.
Any kids out there that, grew up, or anybody that was a kid growing up playing with chemistry sets, and
exactly
having fun watching experiments, it sounds like it's kind of right up their alley,
It really is. There's a lot of chemistry behind it. When you get into blend specs and there's a lot of that. So anybody that likes the science side of it would probably get a kick out of it.
Well, hey, let's go back to kind of when you were, actually starting the business a little bit. And if you have any advice or, kind of what your experience was when it came about beginning an actual business from the beginning, ground up kind of situation. Yeah. What were maybe some of the things that you didn't expect early on? Some of the maybe struggles or just surprises that you didn't think about when you thought about an ownership kind of situation?
Sure. No, and that's a really good question, Kevin. And I appreciate when folks ask that, because there's a lot of glamour behind owning a business, and sure. it gets a lot of credit, and oftentimes a lot of flack. A lot of business owners, you look at like your Bezos and your Musk, these billionaires, and they don't have to work for anything, and they're so this, and it's like you're not looking at the 100 hours a week, blood, sweat, and tears, signing second mortgages, potentially losing everything that they have to get to that point. And obviously I am not a Jeff Bezos or an Elon Musk here at my little home office, but it's hard. It's a lot, and I would encourage anybody who wants to do it because it is absolutely fulfilling. It is highly risky. So if you're not into taking risks, if you're not that guy that has $100 left in chips and you're willing to put it all on black, then you may not want to do that, because it can go south really quickly. And with your expertise in insurance, you can definitely speak to that, because when we start talking foundations and structural integrity and the liability that goes into at least what we do, it can make a big difference. But some of the things that you hear and you think about, it's, well, I'm going to start my business and the doors are going to open and I'm going to start making money. That's not usually how it happens. Then you start to think about marketing and you think about advertising, and then employees, the headache with employees. I mean, they are your business, but they represent you. So hiring and training and building, that camaraderie and that vesting them in the business so that they take the same pride. Probably the biggest eye-opening thing to my partner Caesar and I has been with that hiring aspect, that if as a business owner you get so in tune with what you do and you build these processes and these systems in your mind that it becomes second nature to you. You don't think about it. If I were to literally clone myself and put him out on the street and hire him, I would still say that he doesn't do half of what I do, and he would be me. And right. I think that's where a lot of business owners struggle to take that next step, to realize that it doesn't matter who you hire, how much experience they have, they're only going to do maybe 70% of what you do in your mind. So, that growth factor, that has probably been the biggest struggle, because you get these ideas where, you see the successes in a movie or in a book, or you read a journal study or whatever it might be, and you see these hoops that they jump to and the next step they take, but what you're not seeing is that route between A and B. And it is a lot of struggles. And I joke with my wife and with our kids, and we drive by the old apartment that her and I lived in Castle Pines. And I remember a time I didn't have any money. She paid our rent. I was working at Lowe's part-time while I owned this business doing appliance deliveries because we didn't have money. I didn't have any money.
Yeah.
So it's I would just say to folks, dig in if you're going to do it. And no, it's not going to be overnight. It's not going to be in a year, but after 2 years, when you start to feel a little bit of cushion or a little bit of traction, don't get caught up on the idea of being a business owner. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong, where I'm a business owner and I can go out and get these really expensive meals and I can go buy this really cool new car. And it's like, you're not out of the woods yet, kid. Like you still got some stuff to do. So that's at least what I've seen, but I don't want to be on a pedestal here either. Those are just things I've seen and my recommendations, but I would absolutely do it if I'd do it again day after day, because it's fun.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's solid advice, for anybody who's either recently started a business or looking to start one. It's maybe hard to think 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road, and I'll just say, in today's society, it's you stick with something for 2 years and you put a lot of effort into it, you start to feel that success. It can be really easy to just be like, I made it, like, here we go. Like, okay, I'm set, everything's going fine. Right.
Right.
And it's easy to maybe fall into that complacency almost.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And you hear about a lot of businesses that end up closing, right? And for any number of reasons, but, to have that mindset of, hey, I'm the business owner, and just because things are going well right now doesn't mean something like, I don't know, COVID come out of the blue and just smack you in the face.
You just never know.
So you got to keep pushing forward.
Yeah.
I think some of your previous experiences you're talking to me about are pretty fascinating in terms of, some of the things you mentioned, like, with being in the culinary field and learning how to interact with people and stuff. Share with me some of the things that you've maybe brought from your previous job experiences into being not just the company itself right now, but being an owner.
Sure. Culinary, when you talk about cooks and chefs and the front of the house and the back of the house within restaurants, that is a hodgepodge. I mean, it is a melting pot of personalities when you really get into service staff and chefs and dishwashers, and then you've got managers. And I not only did I do that, but I was tied into the country club aspect of it. So we have this really high-end persona that we have to carry around the membership, but in the back you've got young college age guys from Jersey and Rochester and Los Angeles and Louisiana and Denver and New Mexico. I mean, it's just this melting pot of people that, there's zero filter. It is crazy hours, energy drinks galore. A lot of them are smokers and drinkers. I mean, you learn how to maneuver very quickly different personality traits. You work around it. And then from the front of the house side of it, I worked at Cherry Hills Country Club. I was around CEOs and CFOs. I was around sports team owners. I was around hedge fund owners. I mean, you get to be around these people where you start to learn how to communicate at I don't want to say a different class level, but they're kind of, it's you articulate differently and you learn to adjust. So one minute you're talking to, Mike Shanahan or Pat Bolin at that point. And then you go in and you're talking to Brian from Jersey. I mean, it's like, it's just a different, you learn how to, you just on your toes, and that has made it good for me. It was very, very beneficial to me because I get very comfortable with people very quickly, and it allows for easier conversations. And within this industry, your biggest goal is it sells any way you look at it. I'm selling a product that a lot of other people can do. So whether it be my experience, my mannerism, my dress, my etiquette, whatever it might be, I'm selling trust initially. And after that, I'm selling the product that they want. So I think that those experiences help build my character to be a little bit easier, because there's a lot of folks that are, just artisans when it comes to, their masters of their trade. And a lot of these contractors are just wonderful at what they do, but they are terribly introverted, or they're not good at speaking with people. They don't understand sales. They don't understand financial side of it. And that's where a lot of folks in the contracting industry go south, or the business is shut down, because they don't have that other side, the business side. And I'll be the first to admit, my partner Caesar, he's the mad scientist behind the business. He's the one who's on site doing the finishing and the forming and the application and leading our guys. And I like to say I do the easy stuff. It's not easy, but I'm not out there, throwing in Bob's driveway. That's Caesar, but he's also running 4 or 5 other projects. I mean, it's really amazing to see what he does, on a daily basis. But I also look at, in the summer, he's putting in 60, 65, 70 hours a week, and I am too. Well, I see other folks that are just standalone business owners doing the same thing. And, I've got a buddy that I work out with every day, and he owns a concrete business. And I even talked to him. It's like, man, you've got to do, if you did what Caesar and I did, that's 120 hours a week. Like, you wouldn't sleep, I always like to give credit to the folks that are trying to do it, but I also encourage people, stay in your lane and have other people that are good at their stuff help you. Cause that's honestly the way that, we've gotten where we're at. But again, Caesar, we go back to that same idea where I've learned how to communicate and get and adjust. Caesar is first generation from Zacatecas, Mexico, that really authentic, like hardworking, Latino family that's they're just wonderful. They welcome you. You go to their house, you're going to get food. That's what they do. They're just really driven, but it's like just the adjustments and lifestyle and the people around you. There's, they say, there's all kinds of kinds.
Yeah. And I think, it's a really interesting point you bring up there. And we kind of talked about on previous podcasts as well, but the idea of, maybe healthy competition. Like, you want to be the best, obviously, right? You want to stand out. You want to find ways and reasons for people to go to you, other companies. But at the same time, it's okay to talk with other people, that have competing companies. It's okay to rely on them for maybe some advice sometimes, or reach out to them and build those relationships up. So maybe, any advice you'd give to anyone out there, business owners or people that want to be business owners that maybe need to break out of that mindset of, I need to silo myself and just focus on me versus, broadening up the picture a little bit there.
Sure. Well, and I think that it's easy. It's a great point you bring up. And, my buddy Kurt and I, we talk about that, and we know other people in the trades. And I know, another gentleman, Robert, out in Littleton. I constantly am going against bids that he puts out. And I think that early on, the owners get caught up in, well, this is my trade secret. And it's like, bud, you're not doing anything secret. You can watch a YouTube video to see what we're doing, really. You need to learn your trade, obviously, but you don't have a Coca-Cola recipe that you're trying to hide here. So they get really tied up in this idea of like these these secrets. And it's like, no, really, as you get older and you kind of tie into your business more, I want their input. I want to be able to bounce, a client that I feel is being irrational, but I want their input, because anybody that thinks that they're not going to have a bad day, or a client that is upset about things, and that's a big eye opener for Caesar and I, because if you take pride in what you do, concrete is something that can go bad for any number of reasons. It can fail. I mean, there's integral things, there's external elements, there's the environmental impact on concrete. There's lots of stuff, but anytime that you get a call or a text or an email that, hey, this is bad, or, whatever it is, it cuts deep. And it's like, I know that I had nothing to do with that, but that's my product. That's my business. That's my name, so to be able to have that network of people that are driven like you, that have experiences like you, that have input that coincides with what you do, I think it's detrimental. It's invaluable to have that, I mean, yeah. I don't, it's a huge benefit. Plus the friendships that you build, because it's common ground. So exactly. I definitely encourage folks. The competition is great to have it. And if you win a bid, you win a bid. If you go against them, you brag, and, that's fun. But anybody who thinks that they're going to have something that's going to take on all of the business, especially in concrete, you're out of your mind. There's so much work. There is so much work out there. When we started our business, I want to say there were 720 concrete businesses in Colorado. And that's like well over 2,000 at this point. I mean, because there's so much work, and, we get to points where we're booked 4 months, 5 months, 6 months out, sometimes into the next season. And I think to myself, I would have to hire 4 other companies worth of people to take on even a fraction of the amount of work just in Douglas County and Jefferson County, so to think about that in that aspect, don't be greedy, don't be upset if you refer something to somebody else, or, hey, how are you doing? Do you think you could take this on? It's a good client. There's enough work for everyone.
For sure.
Yeah.
So, as you have built up your business and everything, and kind of going back to the people side of things here, I think one of the ways that companies can really help themselves stand out is how they interact with their community. And so maybe from your standpoint, it's one thing for a restaurant to interact with just its local community, right? Trying to get the people that are right there next to them. But for someone like you who's doing business across a very wide region, right? How do you tackle community involvement in that sense?
That's a really good question. And you can have a philanthropical approach on it, and we're going to give to the community. But, if we're being honest, it's hard to do that. There's, if you want to adopt a highway section and go out and clean, the kind of barriers that you have to jump through with Department of Transportation, and then the county, and then, just the bureaucracy that's tied into that. I mean, that's a whole nother podcast, but it gets exhausting to try to do that stuff, and then insurance side of it, you have to look at those things. So really what it comes down to is Elevation Concrete. We have a brand, and our brand comes from our personality, the way that we do things, the way that we say things, the way that we act, the way that we dress, the way we present ourselves. By tying that into a single idea of what Elevation Concrete is, that's how we impact the community. Because when our guys show up to a site, let's say we get to a new development, they're congested, there's more homes per acre that are being built. That means tighter parking. That means less space for our equipment. But then our guys getting out and looking and asking neighbors if it's okay, being conscientious, or you see, a guy down the street trying to move a couch. Our guys will be the first ones to go down there to help out, even though it's not our client, because we don't teach, but we just instill the value of kindness. We're a community. That's what we're here for. And one of the best compliments that we get from lots of our clients is that our guys are just great. They're nice, they're kind, they're considerate, they're polite, just those good things that you want to hear, kind of, and not in a condescending way, but you want to hear it about your kids, and that's how we look at it. We're doing our job. They like their patio, but they went so far as to say that they really like our guys. That means that we're doing something good. And that's kind of how we at least justify that we give back to the community. Caesar and I donate, money to our churches and to community causes and, things like that. But
sure,
that's financial. And we try to keep that separate, but at the same time, giving back at least with kindness. I mean, that's something I think we need a lot more of nowadays.
No, I totally agree. And it's just a unique viewpoint that you shared there, because people are so maybe caught up in the idea of they have to go to these community events and they have to help sponsor them. And they, you talked about adopting a highway, right? And there are just so many other levels to the idea of giving to your community. And, it ties into your business model in general, right? I mean, how many times have I been looking for someone to do a job on the house or whatever? And it really kind of comes down to, who do I trust more? Who goes that extra mile to kind of really show that they're interested in more than just my money. Right. And that says so much about you guys and just whoever that, that person is that I'm talking about. Because they just have a different level of, I think, or idea when it comes to community involvement. And so I think it just kind of highlights a different way of approaching that for anybody out there who's listening.
Yeah, no, and it is you sum that up nicely. And that's what it comes down to is, just this idea that I think businesses get too caught up in what is the monetary return of this endorsement or this sponsorship. And it's like, my buddy Rockland, he's a real estate agent. His son's really great at motocross. He's a younger kid. I'm going to donate some money to sponsor some of his equipment and some of his trips. It's not a huge amount of money. And I get a sticker on his bike. Do I think can I quantify what I'm going to get back for my Elevation Concrete sticker on, his motorbike? Probably not, but I don't care because it's right. I'm in the position where I can give to them. And I would hope that someday if I'm in a position that, I'd like my kids to have that, then I hope other people are like that. So it's just kind of, it's the idea of community, I think, is really what should drive that. Not so much what I can do for my community, but how can I become a part of my community to drive our values?
Well said, man. Really well said. Completely agree.
Yeah.
Well, let's shift gears a little bit here. And I kind of want to bring up some insurance type of questions. And again, this is something that every business owner just absolutely loves to talk about.
I love it.
It's a highlight of your day, I'm sure. If you're like, I get to deal with insurance stuff today.
Your workers' comp audits. It's perfect.
Well, let's, I think the first question I have for you is, what do you think of when it comes to, if I say insurance for Elevation Concrete? Like, what are some of the things that you think of, whether it's concerns that you have in general about your company and making sure you're protected well, or maybe just positive aspects, when it comes to knowing that you're covered, or just anything like that, man?
Yeah, no, I truly, and I'm not just saying this because, like you're part of Centennial, Savannah and Doug, they're great. I talk to companies and I go because sometimes when we switch providers, I don't even know what companies I have to cover me as far as Liberty Mutual or Acuity or whoever it might be. Half the time, and that's what I would tell people, don't get caught up on that. Get caught up on how your representatives communicate with you, how quickly they get back to you. Because sometimes I'm tying contracts up and they'll say, hey, quick, I need a certificate of liability for elevation so I can submit this bank draw. And if I don't get that in by 5 p.m., you're not going to get your check till the next bank draw. So that's 45 to 60 days away. I know that I can depend on Savannah to damn near instantly get me a certificate of liability. So to me, those are invaluable. I have to pay insurance. Anybody who thinks that they shouldn't pay insurance in this line of work, in construction, with how litigious everybody is, you're out of your mind. You need insurance, get coverage, get a good general liability, get an umbrella, make sure that you're covered. I mean, that to me, I guess that was a no-brainer at first. And then the funny thing about it is you start to look at these requirements, and, the umbrella is a 1 million or a 3 million or a 5 million. They're not very much difference in pricing. I mean, it's not a huge hit, but the way that it opens you up, one, to coverage, to blanket yourself, but secondly, there's bigger companies. We do work for Costco's and your Walmarts and your Amazon factories. They are massive companies that just their Western legal team probably makes more than my whole company does the whole year in a quarter. So it's like, why would I even try to risk anything stupid like that? And the kind of coverage that they require. So I would tell anybody that getting into the business, find the folks that you trust and trust them, because they're not going to steer you wrong. I can always send over a contract and have Savannah look over something and make sure that I'm covered on this. She'll tell me, yeah, you look good here, but maybe ask about that. And to me, that's invaluable, because how you guys keep up on everything that goes on with insurance, I'll never know. If I know my deductible and I know that I'm covered on certain things, that's what I look for.
Right. No, I think that, having that trustworthiness, it's kind of like just having a business partner of sorts, and I think, so many people think about insurance as something big and scary because it's not something you think about very often. And there's just so many different things to it that it's kind of easy to shy away from it. And so you see those commercials of, if you're a business owner, sign up for this in 7 minutes and you'll be covered, by the end of the day. It's like, well, is that really going to protect you? Right. Is that really going to give you the peace of mind you need, to that if you, again, go back to the restaurant example, you have somebody that walks in your door and slips right at the door and breaks a hip. Or, is your reaction going to be, well, other than, oh my gosh, is this person okay? Is your next reaction going to be, am I covered for this? Am I in trouble here? Right. Or is it going to be, okay, I know, the people that I work with at, whatever insurance agency, they're going to take care of me. I've talked to them about this. I understand my policy. I know how this works, at least to some degree. I know I can reach out to them. And you have that peace of mind, right? To know that you're not going to lose your business instantly overnight and have your whole livelihood threatened because of one accident.
Right.
But it's so easy to just be like, okay, got my insurance, check the box and move on with my life. And then just close my eyes. And I hope that, nothing bad ever happens, but that's not the world we live in,
Absolutely. And that's I think it gives you, again, we can go back to this community and kindness and being genuine, knowing that we have our insurance, we have multiple vehicles, multiple employees, trailers, equipment going all over the front range every day. I couldn't tell you where all of our stuff is all the time, but I can tell you that we get in accidents and our guys have hit cars, our cars have hit our cars. I mean, there's no shortage of exciting stuff that can happen. And having that coverage, having people like you guys, like Centennial State and Savannah, that I can call and they can lay out, hey, fill this out, submit it to here. I mean, it's laid out for me. What that does is allows me to cut through all that paperwork and all the money and all the fear and say, hey, are you okay? Is the person okay? Do we need to call on anybody? Do we need to call family? Do you need a ride? whatever it might be. I don't have to deal with all the dumb stuff that you pay insurance companies to deal with other insurance companies to do that stuff, because then I can think about the people and the stuff that's involved, not that side. And that, I just don't see how you'd want to go without that. Now, do I love a rate cut? Do I like when I save money on insurance? Absolutely. But I'm not going to save 10% to go with somebody that I don't know, because it's like, that's maybe that 10% is what the service I'm providing comes from. And the thing that I like about insurance is I don't know what you guys make. I don't know what Savannah makes and Doug off of a policy. I don't really care. I know that that's what I have to pay and I'm covered. So that's kind of the cool thing I like about that whole realm. But you're exactly right. It's they're part of your staff. And, I feel like, if I'm in a board and I'm sitting at my big table, I want my rep there, that kind of thing. And that's invaluable.
Definitely. Well, hey, Dustin, I'm going to kind of wrap it up with this final question, and kind of just in terms of any final advice you give to people out there. People who want to own their own business or who currently are, any, big piece of advice that you've learned along the way that you'd like to pass on.
Yeah, no, before that, I'll just tell you, I appreciate the opportunity as a business owner. I think a lot of people will, through this podcast and talking to other business owners, we like to talk about ourselves and our journeys, and not in a snooty way. It's just, it's fun. It's a journey. I would tell people, be aggressive, but be patient. It is not overnight. And when you feel like you're just in the most monumental moment of your whole life, wait 30 minutes, because it's really, it'll back off, and if you feel like that about those situations, that's a good thing, because that means you're vested. That means you're tied into it. You've got pride in what you're doing, no matter what it is. And I would say keep it up. But the biggest thing is, to me at least, is my wife. She's been extremely supportive. My mom, your family, the network that you build behind you, they're going to support you. And as much as you want to think that you're the only thing driving it, usually you're not, because starting when you wake up, a kiss from your spouse, or, a word of encouragement from your mom, or whatever it might be, that you may not realize it, but that is what is pushing you. That's, you have the drive, but sometimes you need fuel, and it's the people that are around you that give you that. So I would just say, to folks, keep pushing, but make sure you surround yourself with the people that are going to keep you going, because that's what you need. Love it, man. Yeah.
Well, Dustin, seriously, thank you for your time today. Just some great piece of advice. Love hearing your story. Kevin. And just good conversation, buddy.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. This was fun, and hopefully with your viewers, I'm not boring them to death. This was a podcast, a cherry for me. So yeah.
Cross that off your bucket list, man.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate the opportunity, and anytime you need anything, call us for your concrete or whatever.
Yeah, no. So sign up with that. How can people reach you? Where can they find you?
Yeah, check us out on elevationconcrete.com. We're as much as we'd like to say we're keeping with the times, that's what helps us. The website's the quickest. Check us out on Facebook at Elevation Concrete. We're on the gram, the Instagram. That's where we post all our pictures. So just we're pretty accessible. We'd love to see your project or just chat with you about questions. But we're here to help.
Perfect. Well, again, Dustin, thank you very much. Have a good rest of your day, bud. And everybody else out there who's listening, thank you for tuning in. Hopefully you're enjoying these. If you have any ideas of businesses you'd like to see us spotlight, or maybe you're a business owner yourself and you want to come on and share your story, we'd be more than happy to hear you. So just hit us up on our Facebook page, send us a message, and let us know, and we can figure something out. But again, thank you for listening to Behind the Small Business, brought to you by Centennial State Insurance Agency, and we will see you all next time. Take care, everyone.